Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here and welcome back to the handmade gift series of 2023, and this time it's episode 3. Now if you haven't seen episode number 1 and episode number 2, I will leave those links in the description. Now today's project, it's quick, it's easy, it makes a great little stocking stuffer. Plus if you need to make multiples, this is a really great project for that. Not even mentioning that of course you can use your beautiful fabric scraps and make it even that more special. And we're going to be making 3 different versions. Each one of them is going to feature exactly the same measurements, exactly the same techniques. The only difference is the very final step, and of course I'll guide you step by step. So without any further ado, let's get started. First, let's go ahead and grab our supplies, and as you can see, I love to use my fabric scraps for this. Usually I like to go for woven, so not knits, and linen blends, cotton blends, or anything of that type. And I usually either go for just plain weave, or sometimes denim is really great, or anything that's a really nice medium weight fabric. So you don't want anything that's too floppy for this project. So let's say don't go choosing something like silk chiffon or really lightweight rayon. However, if you absolutely love the print of that one piece of rayon that's just very drapey, perhaps you can either interface it or you can quilt it on top of some other fabric. So there's a million ways how you can go about it. So whatever you have, I'm sure you can make it work. And of course a zipper as well. Now here I'm going to be using 9-inch zipper for the measurements of the zipper pouches that I have. If you decide to make it a little bit bigger because the principle is exactly the same, the measurements will vary. Then of course you will need a longer zipper as well. I decided to go with this beautiful snowflake fabric that I have a little remnant of, and for each of the projects we're going to cut 2 rectangles with the measurements of 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And for each one of these variations, step 1 through 3 is going to be absolutely identical. So step 1 is to cut your fabric and gather all of the necessary supplies. So here we have 2 rectangles, one for the outside, one for the inside. Both measure 5.5 by 8.5. 2 pieces of bias tape. Each is just about a little bit over an inch wide, and they measure the same length as the shortest side of the rectangle. A little tab, which is 2.5 inches wide by 4 inches long, and of course a zipper. First, take your rectangles, place them wrong sides together like so, make sure that they align, and then take your bias tape and place it on the wrong side on one side, pin it, and right sides together on the wrong side again, and pin it. For this particular project, I went back to my sinker because it has a 1/4 inch foot. So I love using my 1/4 inch foot for projects like these. So now with 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to attach this bias tape to our project. As always, don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and at the end of your seam. Now, while we're at it, let's go ahead and finish the tab as well. Here you can see how it's folded, sort of like a double fold bias tape. So I'm going to place it like this. One stitch will go on the edge over here to secure all the raw edges on the inside, and the other one is going to go on the opposite, so that way it looks symmetrical. Now let's go back to our rectangles. This is what it looks like before the next step. Now let's go ahead and grab these little pieces of bias tape that we have attached, turn it to the right side of the fabric, and here I'm simply going to fold it in and place it on top of that stitching line, so that way it's not visible. And now I'm going to stitch right on the edge over here, securing this bias tape in place. If you need, you can of course pin it. Step 1 and 2 is done, and this is what we have. Here's our little tab, and here's our little zipper pouch. Step 3 is going to be to install the zipper. Here I have marked about 1/2 inch away from this little metal tab, and I've marked it with a water-soluble marker, but of course you can just mark it with whatever you already have. I want to align the edge of the fabric with that mark that I have made on one side and on the other side, but we're going to do one by one. So let's start with this side first. Now the zipper that I'm using here is a nylon zipper, except for these little parts which are made out of metal. So whenever you're working with zippers, please be very careful. Use the knowledge that you have and use your best judgment, because these can be very, very different. As you see, this zipper is super soft, so sewing over these nylon zipper teeth with a medium-sized needle is not a problem at all. However, if you're using zipper that's made out of thicker plastic or perhaps metal, that of course is a different story. So please be very careful. Don't damage your needle, don't damage your sewing machine, and of course be safe as well. Let's take a closer look. The zipper here is closed. The bias tape of the project is just about 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. I still have my 1/4 of an inch foot on, and that's one of the reasons why I like using it for this project, because then I don't have to change it throughout. But if you don't have a 1/4 of an inch foot, of course use your zipper foot that most likely came with your sewing machine. Once done, it's going to look like so. For this next step, everything is going to be exactly the same. The only difference is that the zipper now is going to be open. So let's go ahead and bring this side of the zipper pouch right over to the zipper. Align it with the little mark that we have made, like so, and take it to the sewing machine. I usually pin it here with one single pin, and then I start on the opposite side so that the zipper pull is not in the way. Once I get to the zipper tab, this is the only finicky part, and what I usually do when I use a 1/4 of an inch foot is I lift up the needle, lift up my presser foot, I move the zipper tab out of the way a little bit, and then I try to find that spot where my stitching ended, and I continue stitching all the way till the end. Now to avoid this little fiddly part, what you can do is when you take your zipper, instead of aligning it like this, like what I do, you can of course go ahead and align it like this, so place it somewhere in the middle. That way when you go and attach the opposite side of the zipper tab is going to be all the way on the end and it won't be in the way at all. Step 3 is done, and this is what it looks like when it's done. You see, here's the zipper on the inside, and here's the zipper on the outside. For this first version, all we have to do is sew the edges and it will create a cute little pouch like this one. For that, let's take our project and let's turn it wrong side out. I usually do it like this. I flip it and just make sure that the zipper is still off-centered and is facing towards the top rather than towards the bottom, like this. Now I'm going to sew this side first, the side where we have a little metal tab. Just whenever you're sewing, whatever seam allowance you're using, just make sure that you avoid going with your needle over this metal part. Otherwise, you're going to break your needle and possibly damage your sewing machine. So please be aware of that. Now I will be stitching that with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Once done, let's take care of the other side. Here I usually use 2 pins. First I pin it here, and then I pin it on the bottom, so that way when I do open up the zipper into the inside of the pouch all the way, these sides stay fixated. So now what I want to do is I want to take my little tab, fold it in half, and place it right over here. And then fold the pouch right back in, and now I want to stitch with a straight stitch just like right over here with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from top to bottom, very carefully going over these zipper teeth. Alright, this is what we have as of right now. Now let's go ahead and snip everything else that we don't need, and let's finish it up. To finish the raw edges, you can either use a tightly spaced zigzag stitch, a serger, or 2 pieces of bias tape. The first 2 options I think are pretty self-explanatory, so let's take a look at this one. For that, just like in the very beginning, we're going to place these 2 pieces of bias tape like this onto our project, and we're going to stitch it with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. As always, just please be very careful with any of the zipper parts. And now, just like previously, go ahead and fold it over the stitching line, and now stitch one more time from here all the way till here. As you can see, I don't have any stitching past the project itself, so now I can surely snip off all of the excess that I don't need. A little bit of fray check or glue on the end will make sure that these don't unravel and stay as is. Once the fray check has dried, let's go ahead and turn it right side out and let's take a look. And there you have it. You can even add a little ring over here so that way it can go on the belt or maybe clip onto a keychain. And of course on the inside it's really nice and neat as well. So fill it up with a chapstick, some candy, maybe a little gift card or whatever else you would like, and that's it. You're all set. Here's version number 2, and as I mentioned, the first 3 steps are exactly the same, but here's what's different. Let's go ahead and turn it to the wrong side, but this time we're going to center the zipper, just like this. Let's start with this side first. So first I'm going to grab it like so, pinch one of the sides, bring it over to the middle of the zipper on the other side like so, and again pinch it and fold it and bring it over to the middle of the zipper on the other side, like this. Now I'm going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance across all of those layers. Once one side is done, we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. The only difference is that we're going to first pin each side like so, so that way we know that they are centered. Now we're going to take the zipper and open it all the way. Now we're going to take the tab, fold it in half, place it right behind the zipper. Let me show you a little bit up close. Here's the tab. Then we place the zipper like so, and then we fold it in just like we did on the bottom, like so. And now we're going to sew through all of these layers. Once done, let's snip off the excess and then finish the raw edges using one of the methods that we did in a previous example. So now let's go ahead and turn it to the right side. Option number 3 is the only option where you might want to apply a little bit of interfacing so that way the boxy pouch at the end holds its shape a little bit better. Now that the steps 1, 2, and 3 are done, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my pouch and flip it wrong side out. The first side that I'm going to sew is the one with a metal stop, and I'm going to center the zip first. And now with a straight stitch, I'm going to sew this edge. Once that is done, I will open the zip, take my little tab, fold it in half, place it right over here in the middle of the zip, bring the zip together, and making sure that everything is centered, I'm going to sew this edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance as well. Now that that is done, I will go ahead and enclose the raw seam allowances. This is what it looks like before we move on to the next step, and now we just have to fold in the corners, stitch them down, and that is going to give us our little boxy pouch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker. You can of course use any other means, but I'm using marker so that way you can see a little bit better. And I'm just marking this little fold line on this side and on this side. Now I gotta say that this boxy pouch is definitely the most finicky one out of all 3 projects, so definitely not my favorite, but I just thought to show it to you as an extra option. So now what we're going to do is open this up just a little bit more, and we're going to fold in each of the corners. So the first, going to fold it in like this, so the line that I just marked is going to align with the seam allowance on the inside. And now I want to measure down about 1/2 inch or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 3/4 inch. Make a little mark and sew across. I usually pin them down like this before I head to the sewing machine. And here another thing is, whenever I sew these corners down, I make sure that the seam allowance is looking all in one direction. Here we're definitely sewing through a ton of layers, so just make sure that you take your time and be careful when you do so. But once everything is done, let's go ahead and turn it right side out. Here I really need to say that I definitely have a zipper pouch fatigue, because not only I made quite a few over the years, but I've also made all sorts of different types, from zipper pouches that go on the wrist to half circle zipper pouches, boxy pouches, regular pouches, just a lot of different types. So this year I just really wanted a fun, quick and easy option with a lot of variations, and that's what I'm bringing you this year. But that being said, of course there are so many ways how you can sew a zipper pouch, including with a lining that encloses all of the seams, so definitely find what works for you. But this year I'm sticking with this one. I personally love that the final result depends on how you fold them, but everything else stays the same. So I think it really makes it for a very versatile DIY, which comes together so quickly. So thank you so much for watching. More gift ideas right over here. And if you want to see episode number 1 and then episode number 2, check the description of this video. And until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!